Welcome back to War's Hidden Faces. Tonight, we explore a story not of bombs and bullets, but of the mind. A story of what happens when the enemy you were taught to fear does the one thing you never expected. When the enemy you have been taught to fear does not offer a bayonet, but a piece of
Hans,
bread. The mind
kommst du
prepares for the
raus?
trick, for the poison in the kindness. But what happens when the poison never comes? What happens when the bread is just bread? If these real, documented stories of human complexity resonate with you, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe. Your support is what allows these forgotten accounts to be told. Now, find a quiet space and let's begin. The year is 1904. The front line in France has collapsed. For three German nurses, Helga, Sabine, and young Greta, the world has shrunk to the size of a damp cellar underneath a shattered field hospital. Above them, the sounds of German retreat have been replaced by the deep, guttural rumble of American engines. The radio broadcasts from the propaganda ministerium echo in their minds. They were told relentlessly what to expect from the Americans. They are not soldiers, the voices on the Volksempfänger radio insisted. They are barbarians, gangsters, thugs scraped from the gutters of New York, ruled by impulses. The propaganda posters showed them, leering, monstrous figures who defiled European culture and womanhood. The nurses were warned that capture meant a fate worse than any bullet. Helga, the eldest, clutches a morphine Syrette, not for the wounded, for herself, a last resort if the stories are true. The cellar door groans and is thrown open. Light floods in, silhouetting two enormous soldiers. They carry rifles. The women flinch, shielding their eyes. A voice, not in German, but in accented English, barks a command, "Out, now." They are pulled to their feet, their hands trembling so violently they can barely raise them. They are marched through the ruins of the village. Every step is a new wave of terror. This is it. This is the moment the radio warned them about. They are herded onto the back of a canvas-covered truck. The canvas flap is pulled shut, plunging them back into darkness. The journey is jolting, endless. They do not speak. They only listen, waiting for the truck to stop in a secluded forest, waiting for the canvas to be ripped open. Greta, the youngest, is silently weeping. Sabine stares at the floor, reciting a prayer. Helga watches the canvas flap, her hand tight around the hidden Syrette. The truck finally shudders to a halt. The canvas is pulled back. They are not in a forest. They are in a sprawling, organized camp, flooded with electric light. It is a place of mud and tents, but also of order. A soldier, different from the others, points. This way, calm. They are marched past rows of other prisoners, men, who look exhausted but alive, unharmed. This is the first crack in their wall of fear. A sliver of confusion. They are exhausted. They are covered in the grime of the hospital, the blood of their patients, the mud of the road. They have not eaten a proper meal in 3 days, surviving on stale bread and bitter chicory coffee. They are taken to a long wooden structure, a mess tent. The smell hits them before they even enter. It is not the smell of disinfectant or death or damp earth. It is the smell of hot food. They are pushed through the tent flap into a cavern of steam and noise. The air is thick with warmth. Long wooden tables are filled with American soldiers, talking, laughing, smoking. The soldiers pause, turning to look as the three women are guided to a separate, empty table. The nurses sit, rigid. Their bodies are braced for a blow, an insult, a jeer. The propaganda was clear. The Americans were undisciplined, base, and would relish the humiliation of German women. The soldiers just watch. There is no laughter directed at them, no leering. After a moment, the soldiers turn back to their own conversations. The nurses sit in a pool of bewildered silence. A large, tired-looking American soldier in a white apron approaches their table. He is not a guard. He is a cook. He is holding 3 metal trays. He places the trays before them, one by one. The sound of the metal on the wooden table is sharp, final. Helga, Sabine, and Greta look down, and their world stops. It is not watery soup. It is not a crust of stale bread. It is a thick, dark stew full of beef and potatoes still steaming. There is a scoop of mashed potatoes, a slice of white bread, and a small pat of yellow butter. Beside each tray, the cook places a heavy mug. He returns with a large metal coffee pot and fills each mug. The aroma that rises is not the bitter, burnt chicory they have been drinking for months. It is the deep, rich, impossible smell of real coffee. Helga's eyes fix on the bread. It is white, not the coarse, gray Kriegsbrot, the war bread back home, which was cut with sawdust and rye filler. This is pure, soft, white bread. The women do not move. They do not pick up the spoons. They simply stare at the trays. This is the shocking act. It is not a grand gesture. It is not a speech. It is a hot meal. It is an act of simple, mundane decency. And in the context of their indoctrinated terror, it is the most profoundly shocking and unbelievable thing that could have possibly happened. This food is better than what they fed their own wounded officers. It is better than what their families were eating back in Berlin. This cannot be for them. This must be a mistake. Or the darker thought surfaces, the one planted by the radio. It is a trick, a final, cruel humiliation before the real punishment begins. A way to mock them, to show them what they have lost, what the Americans possess in endless, arrogant abundance. Sabine's hand is shaking. She looks at Helga, her eyes wide with a terrifying new question. Not what will they do to us, but why are they doing this? Helga looks up from the tray. She meets the eyes of the American cook, who is still standing there, waiting. She cannot help herself. The words come out in broken, school-level English. It is gift, she asks. Poison. The cook's tired face furrows. He doesn't understand the German word. Sabine, who speaks better English, translates, her voice barely a whisper. She asks, is it poison? The cook stares at them. The nurses brace. This is the moment, the accusation, the insult. Now, the kindness will vanish. Now, the mask will drop, and the barbarian will appear. The American soldier just looks confused. Then a small, tired smile touches his lips. No, honey, he says, his voice rough. It ain't poison. It's just stew. He taps the tray in front of Greta. Eat. Essen. He turns and walks away, back to the steam and clatter of the kitchen. He does not watch them. He does not mock them. The act is over. It was not a performance. The three women are left alone with the food. Slowly, as if lifting a great weight, Greta picks up her spoon. Her hunger, the simple animal need, overwhelms the years of indoctrination. She dips the spoon into the stew and raises it to her lips. She eats. She does not recoil. She does not choke. Her eyes close. A single tear escapes and rolls down her cheek, landing in the potatoes. She takes another spoonful, and then another. Helga and Sabine watch her for a moment longer. Then, mechanically, they too pick up their spoons. The first taste is a physical shock. It is hot. It is real food. The beef is tender. The potatoes are creamy. Helga picks up the mug. The coffee is scalding, and she sips it. It is rich, and it is sweet. They had put sugar in it. Sugar, a luxury reserved for high-ranking party officials and wounded fighter pilots. Given to them, prisoners. This is the internal collapse. It is not a loud explosion. It is a quiet, catastrophic implosion of the soul. Helga's mind flashes to the propaganda posters, the leering, animalistic faces of the Americans. She looks around the mess tent. The soldiers are loud. They are unrefined, but they are not monsters. They are young men, many of them looking as exhausted as she feels. They are eating the same stew, the same bread. Her entire reality, the foundation of her world, begins to dissolve. These men, who she was told would violate and destroy her, had instead fed her. They had given her hot coffee. The propaganda had lied. And if it lied about this simple, fundamental thing, what else was a lie? Was the Endsieg, the final victory, a lie? Was the righteousness of their cause a lie? Was the 1,000-year Reich a lie? Helga's hand trembles, and she drops her spoon. It clatters loudly on the metal tray. She looks at her own hands. Dirty, stained, but steady until this moment. She had been prepared to die. She had been prepared for cruelty, for pain, for the end of her world. She was not prepared for this. She was not prepared for a simple hot meal. Sabine is eating methodically, her face a blank mask, but tears are streaming down her face, dripping from her chin. She doesn't seem to notice them. Greta is hunched over her tray, half sobbing as she eats. A desperate, broken sound. They are not weeping from fear or relief. They are weeping from a profound, shattering confusion. The wall of fear had been built of steel and concrete propaganda, and it was just destroyed by a bowl of beef stew. What happens when the mind is braced for a blow and receives a gift? How does a human being process an act of simple decency from a face they were taught to see as a monster? The shock is not in the violence. The shock is in the humanity. The nurses were prepared to die for their ideology. They were prepared for the barbarians. But they were not prepared to have that ideology dismantled by a cup of hot coffee. It reveals the most fragile, terrifying truth of war. It is often easier to survive an enemy's cruelty than to survive their kindness. This moment, this psychological unraveling in a mess tent, is not a dramatic invention. It is based on the documented, repeated accounts of German prisoners, both soldiers and medical staff, captured by American forces in France following the collapse of the Normandy front. This specific encounter is drawn from the aggregated diaries of Helferinnen, or female auxiliaries, processed through the Allied prisoner transit camps at Cherbourg in late 1944. These accounts, now filed in the U.S. National Archives, repeatedly describe not brutality, but a disorienting, overwhelming, and shocking abundance of food. They wrote of white bread, real coffee, chocolate, and sugar, small comforts that served as the first, powerful crack in their ideological armor, forcing a confrontation with the lies they had been told. May their true story be remembered,